Alright, welcome back to Full House 7th edition, where we are playing Vanheim. It is turn 21. This one has really gone pear-shaped. So let's see, we do some site searching. We do not find any air sites. We attack forward against Pangaea. This is probably just our army. No, this is on top of their fort. This is our other, what used to be our main army that we sent into Agartha. Our long-lost sons have returned home, and they're killing harpies. We probably should have put some bodyguards on this fellow. Elves are kind of difficult to snipe as far as commanders go, but, that was still pretty irresponsible of me. Still a bit in, early game mode, but we've definitely reached the point where there can be all kinds of shenanigans. But that was just province defense, a decent amount of province defense. But it's not going to be enough to stop a significant number of Vanheirs. So we take no losses, and we kill a bunch of wood creatures. Doesn't really look like early age Pangaea gets very good fort PD. And then we get attacked by Pangaea. This does not sound like a farmland. It's not. Dang. So our raiders get caught somehow. This is maybe some retreats. Oh, you know what? Is there an assassination? Did I miss an assassination? Because I thought I ordered these guys to head over and join in that battle that we just saw. But for whatever reason, it didn't happen. And this looks like a reinforced group of White Centaur. Also, there was a van here that got abandoned somehow. And, this is not going to go well for us. We might at least kill, one White Centaur. Not really. Okay. It does look like we have two commanders here, so for whatever reason this group didn't move. I probably just canceled the order accidentally. These things can happen. Pangaea is using some bodyguards, so very nicely done there. A bunch of White Centaur. This is going to be a problem. But we have more Vanheirs, and we've seen that, when our Vanheirs come up against these White Centaur, that works out for us. But sadly, they did not land in our trap, and we do lose a Vanhurst, probably. Yeah, we lose a Vanhurst, so, I'm not sure what happened with that group. That is rough. We don't have a ton of Vanhursts. We don't have a ton of mages, so every one of those guys that we lose, humans, whatever, they can die. Elves, every one that we lose is no doubt a very sad poem. And let's see. So this is what's left in Lanka, and looks like the Pretender, maybe some mages. No, a very, very lightly kitted thug, it looks like. And then, this guy is a prophet, along with just some regular Bandar, who are decent. And they are up against, just a little bit of blood stuff. Looks like there were a few blood slaves here, and they were used to summon in some imps. These guys are just blood 1, so they're going to be asleep for a little while. We also have... looks like one of Bandar's heroes, who does have a fear aura, which is cool, but otherwise is just kind of a holy 2 with a magic weapon, so given more time and more kit, I'm sure Lanka could have done something cool with them. And right, of course, have to put on the dual-colored squares, since this is, two very closely related factions fighting each other, and I just think, Lanka doesn't have much left. They have been fighting very valiantly, and this bull has been a big problem for them, although we can see, that guy had ethereal. Took him a second to sort it out, but I think that is going to work out for Kailasa. Although it doesn't look like Lanka is eliminated overall, so Kailasa attacked Lanka and won. Lanka loses the remainder of what's in their capital. It's not free for Kailasa. In fact, they lose their really lightly kitted thug. They don't have any protection really built in, so, pretty dangerous to give them the Berserker Axe and say, have at it. And they do lose, a chunk of Bandar swordsmen who are not cheap. So, even though this is the last dregs of Lanka's defense, still pretty well done. And then we have another independent attack, because of course they do. The dead rise from their graves. Come on, Throne of Bones. It's not even claimed anymore. So anyway, we're going to get attacked by more skeletons. I really need to figure out some skeleton kit, obviously. Oh, hey, there you go. So since we have the province now, we haven't claimed it, but, we get some Mound Kings and a mummy, which is kind of interesting. So that's cool, I guess. And then there's a worldwide event. Okay, thank heavens. So the Throne of Beasts is finally done sending independent attacks. There's definitely some werewolves and such out there. And then we get attacked. These are going to be our undead. So I guess the Throne of Bones is not resting yet. We do have 6 province defense here, but it's a pretty garbage province defense type. Luckily, we do have a built-in mage priest in the PD, but it looks like he's getting some banishment in. It's probably not going to be enough, and he's probably going to get HP routed from the rest of the PD going down. Yeah, so it might actually be better to just invest like 1 province defense if the PD type is really crappy. Probably not there, but I do think that the undead, the Soulless particularly, might have struggled a bit, to actually deal damage to our commander. Anyway, it's a thought. So we are sitting on top of Pangea's other fort that was in our territory, basically, or I can't remember. Did we have this? It will be our territory. It should be our territory. We can see there's not a ton in there, so the walls are already moderately damaged. We'll probably get the crack next turn as long as, not everybody gets assassinated in that army. So fingers crossed that doesn't happen, and I will catch you guys after the jump. All right, this was the situation and what we did about it. Most importantly, we got extremely lucky. I don't actually know if this always happens with the Throne of Bones. I'm assuming it's related to it. We don't currently have it claimed, though, of course, we did claim it before. But a bunch of undead showed up to support us. None of these undead are very good. The Soulless especially are awful in combat, and a lot of the long dead that we got, in fact, I'd even go so far as to say the majority of the long dead that we got are like the worst variety that, have absolutely no protection or very little protection. So in terms of a boost, to our combat power, it's pretty negligible. But in terms of a boost to our siege strength, it's kind of exactly what we needed. So we're moving everything in, and whereas before it was like, well, do we take this fort? Do we not take this fort? There's still arguments to be made, right? Because now this gives us a legitimate border with Agartha, though it at least will be a fortified border with Agartha, because currently this mountain pass is closed and they can't cross this river, and because of our difference in temperature scales, as long as Dominion of one side or the other doesn't push across, both of those routes should remain closed. So, a little bit of concern that Agartha is able to get into this fight a little bit more. On the other hand, taking forts, is definitely something we need to do. So we should be able to crack this fort pretty quickly. White Centaur force is nearby, but of course, we're combining most everything that we have in terms of Vanheers. So we have, a good chunk of Vanheers moving up, and then this is our original army that returned home from fighting Agartha. So in a pretty decent position over here. I think we can handle this amount of White Centaurs without too much difficulty. We're also sneaking out a raiding group through what used to be Caelim's territory, but is now held by werewolves. There's still independent flags kind of all over the place. I do remember people were discussing this a lot. The independents were especially fierce this game because of the throne situation and, when they were claimed. So anyway, we've got 12 Vanheers with a Vanhurst, a pretty strong raiding group, but if we run into a significant White Centaur force, it will get wiped out, so some risk, but we do want to start putting pressure on the rest of Pangea's territory. From a recruitment standpoint, we're not in a great place. We're recruiting another Vanhurst. We know how I feel about Vanhursts, but, we do need more research. We do need commanders. It's what we can afford. Speaking of what we can afford, here's another Dwarven Smith. We're not even getting full recruitment of our Sacreds. So, we're still hurting, but definitely getting a bunch of siege strength is very opportune. And we are moving out a couple more Vanheers, just a few, and a Vanhurst who's going to come lead them and hopefully clear out all this undead. This is a lot of money that we're losing out on. We really need to get on this. Probably should have gotten on it sooner, but, easy to say that after the fact. In terms of what else is going on in the world, somewhat limited sight, though we do see that, this Caelim Arcocephaly war is continuing, probably winding down. Caelim has cracked Arcocephaly's capital. And there's a lot of stuff here, so I'm expecting them to storm soon. Looks like is doing pretty well. They're sitting on top of one of Fomoria's forts, though it hasn't been cracked yet. But it doesn't really look like Fomoria, has a ton of room to have a lot of provinces back here. We know that extends, quite far south, so probably is going to win that, and they provide a potential counterbalance, right? Because once Caelim finishes this war, it's like, well, where do they go? They go a lot of places, but we're not doing great. Speaking of wars that are about to wind down, here we have Kailasa's, well, I don't know if it's their main force, but their god is here, and so they've taken Lanka. I think Lanka has like, I don't know, 1 or 2 provinces left. They're pretty much dead, so Kailasa will be free as well. Not too worried about them at this point, right? Like, we will border them, but only by 1 province, and we would pretty much have to eliminate Pangaea completely to have like a significant border with Kailasa. So if we do end up fighting them, right, it'll probably be a long way off. We need to worry about Pangaea first. But, you know, it's always notable when somebody who will soon be your neighbor and potentially will be a significant neighbor has finished with their war. We do see a stack here from Agartha, some Mind Blasters and Magma Children. You know, we wouldn't love fighting this, but I think we'll be fine to handle it. From a research standpoint, I don't think anything's changed. Working on Conjuration 3 and then Construction 4. And I think that more or less covers turn 21. Alright, welcome back to Full House 7th edition, where we are playing Vanheim. It is turn 22, and I have absolutely no idea what's going on. Ooh, we got a lot of Kalem battles. Not with us, though, so that's good at least. Actually, no battles involving us, which is a bit surprising. We are focused on taking that fort, and I guess Pangaea probably is also focused on trying to defend it. They can move units in stealthily, so it could be kind of a nasty storm. We did breach the fortification. We also finished research and conjuration, level 3. So this is going to help us out for those assassination battles once we actually distribute air gems to people, which we have not done yet. Probably should have done that ahead of time. So yeah, this is Kalem. There's a lot of independents, a lot of werewolves running around. I was tempted to try to snatch a Kalian province, but it's actually in their cap circle, what I realized. It's the one that kind of blocks us off from going south towards Pangaea. So they would not appreciate that. I was thinking about, maybe we'll just snag that province. And no, it's their cap circle, so that would definitely be war. This works out for them, although not without loss, I think. I do think some of those guys had magic weapons, the Ice Clads, which does help a lot against werewolves since they rely on that invulnerability, which, doesn't work if you have magic weapons. Still, though, they lose 5 birds, but, werewolves, they're not great, but as independents go, they're one of the tougher types. And then this is probably a similar... Okay, no, this is the undead. Because, we have the Throne of Beasts and the Throne of Bones active, and or possibly a story event. There's a lot of discussion in the game chat, but definitely everybody has been getting slammed by independents. So this is a priest and some birds, so good stuff. Kalem is definitely paying attention to the types of indies that they're going after and then switching up what they're using, or at least I think they use a little bit of stuff. Actually, I think they may have had a Seraphine. So I guess they're just using Seraphines to lead groups around. But when they went up against the undead, she could take advantage of her priest level. And this is looking like a pretty similar group, although just Spire Horns here. Although I think they also get magic weapons, which is important because they're also up against werewolves. There's quite a few Spire Horns here, so I think this is probably going to go a bit better for them. That's the thing though, birds, they do die. Let's see, independent armies are routed, although I think, Kalem's birds routed as well, so it's just the Seraphine here that's hanging out, but it does work out for them. Luckily, I don't think the Spire Horns are particularly, they're just bog standard in terms of cost, so pretty easily replaced, especially since Kalem is a pretty good size. The largest player, at least that we know about, like in our immediate surroundings, roughly. Our scouting is not perfect. Speaking of Kalem, here they are storming Arcocephaly, and we've seen this bird force before, although I do recall there's quite a few Wind Riders in here. So let's see, there's a communion going up. We got a priest here for some blessing, and then I'm not sure, I don't think they have a god here. A few elementals coming out, which that, right, we just hit Conjuration 3, so probably would have actually preferred putting units on bodyguard. Probably, I think there's enough mages here. You probably could have just set all the Wind Riders to bodyguards. Because really the main concern, like how Arcocephaly lost their last battle, right? They just had the one commander and they got sniped. You can see now, right, like the Wind Riders are hanging out a lot longer and doing a lot better than they did before, but they are really outnumbered here. So I do think the birds are going to come away with it, especially since they have... I don't think they actually have any... mage support that's advancing though, so Let's turn on 10 colored squares here. I do hear an air elemental. That is from Calum. So Calum also at Conjuration 3. Probably actually has more, maybe about the same number of elementals here as Archocephaly. Yeah, and the birds are routing. So, I wasn't totally crazy the last battle where I said, yeah, like possibly, or I think I was thinking that Archocephaly was going to come away with it. Because I don't think this is a bad Wind Rider bless. And they had a lot of Wind Riders. So yeah, this is a painful loss for Calum, right? I think that was an army route. There's a few mages here that have fallen asleep. They'll probably escape since they can fly. Although Wind Riders are at least decent, at cleaning mages out because they can fly as well. So that looked like a painful loss for Calum, which is great news for us. Because, we could be next on the menu. So let's take a look at what they actually lost. Yeah, so I would call this, semi-painful. They lost 2 casters, but not, super expensive casters, and fairly easily replaceable, so that's not such a big deal. They only risked the 1 Eagle King, and the Eagle King got away. In terms of troops, I don't think any of these, like the Blizzard Warriors, they only lost 3 of them, though. The Iceclads may be the most difficult. A little on the more expensive side, and resource recruitment-wise, a bit harder to bring in. But like Spirehorns, you can pop out in pretty ridiculous numbers. So while I'm sure Calum is not thrilled with this result, they did at least, they managed to kill 8 of the Wind Riders, which is not that many, but really, again, it's the commanders that are going to be the problem. Like, Archocephaly is down to, 3 total commanders now, and there's a pretty good chance that, Calum left some stuff on top of the fort, so Archocephaly is not going to get a chance to recruit any more commanders in that case, and, the next battle, they might just be able to snipe all the commanders, and then, again, the Wind Riders won't matter. But if they don't manage to do that, they may need to bring more than just birds, or just a lot of birds. So anyway, we're hoping that Archocephaly holds out. A worldwide event, some drain. That's not great. We already have some drain, but I guess at least it hits everyone equally. Some misfortune. I think we're already maxed out on that, so that's fine. This is at least coming from a throne. The other one just a random event. We do breach the fortification that Pangea has, and then Lanka is eliminated. And I'll catch you guys after the jump. Alright, this was the situation and what we did about it. Most importantly, we are going for the storm on this Pangean fort. There are a decent amount of gems in here. Yeah, 4 gems total, so pretty significant swing, and I hate leaving forts behind the lines. Definitely something you can do. We still see these White Centaur here, so I'm assuming they were just trying to catch raiders. We're going to be storming only with things that can actually fight, and we're going to be leaving our undead, out of the fight. This is assuming that, Pangea doesn't sally out, which is possible. But if that's the case, right, most of our undead, especially our awful undead, are in the back, so, hopefully the battle will be over before they really engage. Though I guess we do have, we would lose a lot of undead, definitely. Because we have a lot of our long dead in front of our Vanhears, which maybe in retrospect should have shifted that. On the other hand, would prefer to lose long dead than losing our sacreds, right? So having them eat the lance charges from White Centaurs, not that crazy. Regardless, we'll be storming, not expecting a ton in here. It's certainly possible, but we cracked the fort pretty quickly. I will say Bramble forts have lower wall integrity, I think, than, there's a lot of forts out there, but they have lower wall integrity, significantly lower, 100 less than just a regular fort. So that could have something to do with it, maybe masking, right? It's maybe there's more in there than I think. But, considering we still see the White Centaurs out here, I think if Pangea was planning on defending this fortification, I certainly would have expected those White Centaur to have disappeared into that fort. So we'll see next turn, also making an attack here, with our 12 van here. Possible they run into stuff, absolutely, but, it would have to be significant for them to lose. And then we're also making an attack, as discussed, against these undead. We'll see, right? We do have a priest here. Our van here are pretty good. We're going to be pretty outnumbered. But high hopes, and we're losing, this province isn't that great, but it does give us an earth gem, and this province, actually I think there's a silver mine here, so it would be really nice to retake this. So we'll see, hopefully we add onto this force and also retake this silver mine. In terms of recruitment, finishing off our Dwarven Smith, we are at least getting full Vanheir recruitment this turn, also even recruiting a couple of herdmen. Yeah, I don't know, we definitely need more troops. And yet another Vanhearst. This is kind of the argument. It's could we squeak out a Van Jarl? Probably not. Yep, and I went and checked it. We are 3 gold short. So that probably explains it. have distributed air gems to everybody, so we should be a lot safer from assassinations. It does look like Calum managed to hold Arcocephaly's fort down, though I am expecting Arcocephaly to try to come out. But, as long as the longer Arcocephaly can tie up Calum, the better for us. But I don't think there's any way they ever win this war. And Ur's siege of this Fomorian fort continues. It's not cracked. There's not actually a ton on here, so perhaps things aren't going as well as I thought for Ur. Or maybe this is a secondary effort from them, and, most of their forces are going somewhere else, like Fomoria's capital. But anytime a siege drags on like this, especially not seeing any reinforcements, it's certainly not the best situation. Otherwise, I don't think our scouts have caught anything too interesting. Trying to see exactly what the breakdown is, the border between Pangaea and Kailasa, since that might become relevant to us. We also see a flag from Tianqi down here, not especially relevant, but we're going to go check it out, because they are a neighbor of Calum, and we may need to know their capabilities. Because, like I said, Calum is pretty large. So if Tianqi is alive and well, it would be useful for us to know that, since, maybe we could try to convince them to come in against Calum. Also sending a scout north just to check out how Yomi's doing. And I think that more or less covers turn 22.